How's it? I have a fun checklist and article back to doing some article videos. So, if you're keeping up on these videos, you know that I went to South Africa recently to visit family. And there was a magazine, I'm going to get it right here, that was the Umhlanga magazine. Umhlanga is a city in the broader Durban area, over in the like Zulu Natal area and east, slightly south part of South Africa, coastal. And the place we were staying had a magazine. No, one night I was just thumbing through out of curiosity to see what was being talked about, and they had a fun little self love checklist. And I thought it would be fun to just go through this because you're not going to get this magazine in the United States. I mean, maybe you could ship it, but who's doing that? So, yeah, just an example of what one of these types of articles looks like in specifically that part of the country. So it's written by Christina Govender, and it is. I'm trying to see. I don't think I took the publication date, but this was within the last couple months. This publication. It's not like a horribly old one, if I remember. So a self-love checklist. We have eight, no, nine items on this checklist. Nine items, but only eight accompanying pictures. So buckle up, because we're gonna learn 9 ways to self-love, and I'm gonna have opinions about it. So, and just for fun, I chose actually not to read this prior to live footage here, live slash pre-recorded footage. I've just read the headers, but not the actual meanings in the words. So let's get to it. Number one, be kind to yourself. So, um, I do want to be respectful of the author and not read this verbatim. So I'm going to read the titles and just kind of elaborate on the paragraph that they were. In that example, the be kind to yourself first point, that's actually pretty self explanatory. No hot takes. Just being kind, forgiving yourself for failures, even writing yourself a letter just to encourage yourself. I think the research is pretty clear on self positivity. And there's definitely a line on that of just fairy tale la di da land, but there's just no real benefit to self destruction. We'll put it that way. There's benefit to encouraging yourself, and there's also benefit to holding yourself accountable for things, being responsible and acknowledging guilt when it's relevant, but not destruction. And it's overall good to be kind to yourself, not holding on to detriment. And when there's something that was a mistake, fix it and course correct your life going forward. And that's probably a good thing. Number two, tip number two, digital detox. Take a break from your phone. I wholeheartedly endorse that as well. The author specifically calls out doom scrolling and encourages a digital detox, which she states lowers stress levels. Um, it is true for a lot of people. Gosh, the study that I found that was crazy was if you go out to dinner with a group of friends and you have your phones on the table, and I'm not gonna remember the level of increase, so I'm not gonna say a number, but they noticed a marked increase in overall stress if your phone, specifically yours, was visible on the table. So I've got mine sitting right here. That if I were just doing work, or if I was out to dinner with friends, specifically for that study, my stress would go up because I know what this guy has stress primarily. So for a lot of people, I should say. But yeah, the stress levels of the group went up just by having your phones visible on the table. Not even using them, just visible. So digital detox is good. If you aren't sure whether you could benefit from that, then one way you can test that is for the next 24 hours. And you can start right when you watch this video. For the next 24 hours, only use your phone to make phone calls and texts. That is it. Don't use any extra apps. That includes if you use things like Signal and WhatsApp and all that, Slack, fine, but do not use it for YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, If you're on Facebook, Snapchat, none of that. Don't use it for banking. Don't use it for um, checking the weather or anything like that. I mean, we're getting a little bit nitpicky. Primarily here, just don't use it for anything other than needs, um, of which you don't typically define. Those are requirements. And you could even say calling and texting isn't, but the very least, removing all access to social media of any sort, including video platforms, and see how you respond. And if you're stressing about it, or if you're naturally going to grab your phone and like, oh, I'm not supposed to, you're pretty over accustomed to it. That's usually my big issue, is not this like I need it freak out moment, but it's a I go to grab it and I'm like, oh shit. Like it's like a default when I'm in an in between state to grab it. That's usually my cue to take a break. So yeah, agree with point two, digital detox. Point three, relax and rejuvenate. Um, this is the first point that I would say this article is very feminine directed. A lot of like face masks, relaxing bath time, showing your body love, take a nap, use that new toner, brush your hair another 100 times. I don't do that stuff. Baths are nice sometimes, but just relax and rejuvenate. And he uses a term that I had never heard called an everything shower. So, looking that up, TikTok trend, typically taking between 1 to 4 hours. 1 to 4 hours. So, maybe this amount of time, maybe 4 times that amount of time. That's so long. Often reserved for at home spa days, predate rituals. Predate rituals. That's a lot if you do 4 hours before a date. I guess if you're like really excited about the date, though. This is also a guy's point of view. My predate ritual is not 4 hours. Maybe an hour, though. That's fair. I'm just jumping around. Self care Sundays. It can be a little overwhelming. Oh, but she's breaking down what it is: pre shower, cleanse, hair mask. Wait, hair mask? Pre shower hair mask. Dry brush, setting the mood. Shower part, body scrub, cleaning shampoo, conditioner, or hair mask. Second cleanse, okay, a face mask. Shave if you want. Body wash, post shower. Body serum moisturizer, body oil, hair serum, and leave-in conditioner, hydrating serum, moisturizer. I'm not against all this stuff. That is probably fully encompassing of what the author means by relax and rejuvenate. I get it. I can see that. So that's another option there. Relax and rejuvenate. That's step three or option three for a self love checklist. Fourth option is to declutter. And yeah, 100% do that. Pretty straightforward. Get rid of some stuff. Make a enjoyable, comfortable, safe living environment. Um, refreshing your surroundings. I like that language. Fresh it on up. Yeah, getting rid of stuff is good. Decluttering is good. I think everyone would do well to have a periodic, not even routine, but like some people do spring cleaning. I think a couple times a year to declutter is good, or having some kind of go to habit that you do for decluttering. A lot of the times when I feel like I start to get too much stuff in my home, I might just do like a bulk declutter, but sometimes I spend like 2 or 3 months doing for every one item I bring into my home, I get rid of two. And that's a bit more relaxed because the pressure is light every single time. And it's like if I get a piece of mail that I want to keep, I get rid of two other pieces of paper, is usually how I do it. I try to make it connected to what I bring in, not required. Like if I bring in a book, I'm not going to go get rid of two books necessarily. Maybe, but not usually. But I think you get the idea. So there's lots of different ways to include decluttering as just a part of lifestyle routines. Fifth one is hobbies. I think hobbies are good. And I think there's a lot of different ways we can approach hobbies. For the most part, I lean towards hobbies are best when they're productive in some way and not going in with the goal of productive. Not saying that, but you know, they involve like relational time with other people, or they involve you moving your body, like people going to play pickleball. That usually does both of those things: time with people, time moving. He doesn't have to be to win. It can be for fun. That's what I mean, like productive, but not like hyper goal oriented. Um, they can be goal oriented, but ideally that you're just creating some separation from the other areas of life. Um, she also mentions buy that music festival or plane ticket. Don't wait for the right time. Allow yourself to do what you love. Chill. I mean, yeah. Don't. A lot of people act like engaging in their hobbies is blowing their bank accounts out. I see this a lot, actually. Don't do that. Hobbies do not have to be financially irresponsible. That doesn't mean buying a plane ticket is irresponsible or a festival ticket. But don't conflate like, oh, I don't do enough, so I need to go do this festival. Like, I'm not living enough. Not. It's not what that means. You can justify those tickets for sure, but hobbies can be very very cheap. Every hobby has a has a point where it can be crazy expensive, but a lot of them can be super cheap. Um, a lot can't, but a lot really can, or they have versions of cheapness to them. And if they don't, start saving up for it. I think it's a fair way to invest in a hobby. I try to have hobby funds. The most expensive, I shouldn't say the most expensive. I do bouldering, rock climbing. I also do music and to some extent this YouTube channel because it's not financially profitable in any way. It is a hobby, and so it's good to have some savings around. Put a little bit of money into climbing gear, new instrument, or actually I need to buy some gear for my music and this channel. I'd like to get a new camera. So things like that where it's fun to save up for it and do that next step as opposed to impulsive buying. Just my recommendation. Number 6, watching movies. The thing I really like about this recommendation is her recommendation to write about what you watch afterwards. This is fantastic. Write a short review. People do this on like Letterboxd, and I think it's great. I have a tendency, and I'm actually quite behind. I have the list of ones I need to do, but I'm at the point now where I'm trying to write reflections and reviews on all the media I engage with, give or take, like collective media, so like a completed video game, completed movie, and completed book. Those are the primary ones. TV shows as well. I don't really do it for music yet. I'm debating doing that for full albums, but I just don't feel the motivation, so I'm not. But this can be really helpful because if you write those down, you kind of clear your thoughts of how you feel about the film. If we're sticking to movies here, and it makes it so you do it all in one place. You can go back, and I've learned as I've been doing this for months now, for well over a year, you can go back and read it, and it kind of puts you back into the place that you were when you completed that event, that book, that movie, that series, that game. It's a cool idea. I love that she mentioned it because I actually don't hear that mentioned hardly ever. Um, Seldom do I see that, so that was cool. But yeah, self love is an interesting way to categorize watching movies. But I think if you know the type of genres that you enjoy, thought provoking, just kind of vegging out, those can be really use, it can be useful times. And she also recommend involving friends, which I think can be fantastic. Tip 7, get outside. That's pretty self explanatory. Sunshine is known to lift spirits, she says. We know sunshine is good. The sun is good. Helps your circadian rhythm. Um, I, it can be good for skin. There's also skin cancer stuff. I'm not gonna claim I understand exactly the right ratio of sunlight to not sunlight to how much SPF, whatever, and we all have different skin types and melanin, whatever. But getting light is useful. And being outside is very useful. I mean, there's not a whole lot else to say on that. It's nice to go outside when we can. And if you're watching this in the northern hemisphere, in most places here, we're heading into spring. So a good time to get outside. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, which I know many of you watching are, trying to get in those last minute outdoor times could be really helpful as you head into a colder winter. So I shouldn't say a colder winter. I don't know what your winter is going to be like, but a colder period of time than your summer. So yeah, getting outside, do it. It's good for you. The next one, number 8, is spoil yourself. Again, a little bit more of a feminine approach here, using examples of getting your nails done, getting your hair done, doing that, so to speak, much needed makeover. Um, I'm actually I don't know if I've ever mentioned it much on this channel, but I'm actually relatively against this kind of action for self care and self love. Usually, what I talk to my clients about is making sure we identify the difference between self care and self indulgence. A lot of things are not inherently good for you. They don't actually make you feel better. They're just a short term boost. Um, that's not to say for some people it is genuinely good to do these seemingly self indulgent activities, but for most of us, we're overindulging in them for sure. Social media is a good example. You can actually have a little bit of a rest time spending 10 minutes scrolling, but it's pretty rare that most of us stop at 10 minutes. We usually head into the self indulgence side of that where it's like, I just want this for me. I know it's not good for me, and I know I'm not really benefiting at this point. So a lot of this like spa day stuff, it's extra. People try to argue that it's healthcare, um, and it helps them, but yeah, it's this marginal increase for this larger expense. And let's put it this way: if you're struggling with mental health, the cost, time, and overall benefit of doing a spa day versus actually doing legitimate mental health interventions, it doesn't make it worth it. So we might feel good, and again, it's not an inherent criticism towards that, but if you're talking to me and telling me that how you care for your mental health is doing these things and you're never listing sleep or relationships or exercise, water, drinking water, and you're just listing like I spend time watching TV and I spend time at the spa. I'm not going to tell you you're not feeling better, but you're really kind of wasting a lot of time and money when you could be really dramatically affecting it with pretty clear interventions that work. Um, and I'm really talking about like maybe the spa day is makes you feel 2% better, but you'll feel 20% better if you just get enough sleep at night. And yeah, so I know it sounds like I'm super against it, and I did say that a second ago. I'm more against it as a philosophy of self care, doing these expensive extra things and saying that we earned them. Uh, I don't think that's very healthy either. To have a mindset of I earned this, I deserve this. That's a very self-centered approach, and we know from research the more kind of I and self statements we make when talking about the world around us and in um, overall improvement, that typically we might be a little bit more prone to depression or some narcissistic traits, just because I am important. I need to do this, and there's a balance there of knowing you're important and making sure the world knows about it. So, um, by all means, it's okay to treat yourself occasionally and to reward yourself from time to time, but having a mindset of all the time of I earned this, I deserve this, it really spoils the actual treat of, you completed your undergrad and you're going to go celebrate and make a big deal about it versus I got through a hard work week and I'm celebrating. It's to each their own on that, and it would look different for every conversation. But yeah, I'm gonna dig myself a hole with that one, but in moderation. The ninth and final self-love checklist item is grab good grub, a fun food alliteration. Um, Food's important. The argument here is just indulging in something that you really enjoy. Um, it's actually not very specific on that. It's not saying enjoy a treat. It's just what do you like, enjoy it and eat it, whether it's a restaurant or cooking. Yeah, I mean, nutrition's an insanely large component to mental health, um, and mood. That's pretty well known. My recommendation with this kind of stuff is you make sure you're eating healthy most of the time. And there's a broad umbrella of healthy, and then there's a focused umbrella of healthy. So, you know, uh, drinking daily and smoking daily, having sweets all the time, having a very low protein diet, things like that are not healthy for you. Um, but should you do keto or carnivore or Mediterranean? Like this is subjective to the person. There's some benefits sometimes, and how you engage in a healthy diet. There's subjectivity to that, but most of us can comfortably say if we're eating mostly healthy or not. So I think if you're mostly eating healthy, then these random indulging moments are just fine. The issue comes in if you're eating poorly and then you're like, I need to pick me up, and then you eat poorly again, you're not doing yourself a favor. And your likely spike in perceived well-being is going to be not that much, because if you're always self-indulging and then you want a special treat, it just matches the typical self-indulgence. Whereas if you're in a healthy sense, relatively restrictive on your diet, and then you introduce a treat, one, the treat's probably going to be less intense than normal. So for me, if I spend a lot of time eating healthy and not, I typically don't eat a lot of sugar, just in general. So when I have a snack and it's sugary, a lot of sugar, I feel that really quickly and I don't like it because I don't do it very much. So my treat and indulgent time feels more special because I don't do it all the time. And because it's introducing a treat or indulgence that's not part of my normal diet, I feel it faster and I eat less of it. So it's a better treat for myself and it's not as unhealthy, if that makes sense. So I'm a fan of that kind of healthy restrictions. That way, when you do get an indulgence or a little special privilege like that, it hits harder and it's more enjoyable. So hopefully this was fun. Again, this was just a magazine in South Africa that I came across and wanted to offer. The Umhlanga magazine. Again, a self-love checklist by Christina Govinder. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. It was a little fun one. I didn't know it was going to go 22 minutes long, but again, hope it's fun enough and that not that you learn anything, but got a little bit of perspective from someone else across the globe and their thoughts on a self-love checklist. And I'd be curious to hear how you all take care of yourself and on a regular basis, and really any thoughts on this. I know I gave some hot takes on some of this, but I always love to hear people's thoughts on self-love, self-care, self-indulgence. All ears. See ya.